Alright, yeah, I just wanted to do a video basically as part 2 for the psychic phenomenon and psychosis, part 2. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about, because I think in the first video I spoke about a link between psychic phenomenon and psychosis, but not really examples of psychic phenomenon within psychosis. So yeah, I just wanted to say really my experiences, and I've spoken to a lot of people over in the past, say 10, 12 years, about psychic phenomenon, and since I've had my own condition, um, then I've spoke to loads of people when I used to volunteer in the Mental Health Resource Cafe, speaking in depth to friends and people I've met along the way. A lot of people I spoke to who've been diagnosed with conditions like schizophrenia or bipolar or schizoaffective disorder and things, and a lot of the experiences they went through during psychosis and when their psychosis re-emerges are very, very closely linked, I believe, with many psychic phenomenons. So yeah, I want to kind of like talk more about maybe examples of that, and obviously like to the normal mindset. And you know, there are things when someone's going mad, we're in psychosis, a lot of the things that they're picking up on can be very jumbled up, confused. And people do suffer from illusions and delusions at times where they get the wrong impression, and especially when you're in psychosis, you can get the wrong impression of something, get so many mixed and confused and deluded messages that you don't really see the wood through the trees. You know what I mean? You're not seeing the clear picture. But that is not to take away, I believe, in my experience, that a lot of what people do go through is that they become, generally, a lot of people become acutely sensitive to things, and they are genuinely, in my belief, usually picking up on something quite real, but possibly, a lot of the time, half the time, or depending on the individual, distorting and confusing things a lot in their mind with delusion and confusion and things. But I think a lot of it, to me, should be journeyed and well, there's this guy called Rufus May, who's a psychologist, and he had schizophrenia, and he believes in understanding the symbols within psychosis, and speaks to the voices, the entity of the voice, whether in a lot of mainstream Western modern psychiatry, it's seen as it's all invalid, it's all gobbledygook madness, insanity, and they don't take it on board. Whether I really like the kind of idea, and I relate to the idea of seeing meaning and symbols in what people go through during psychosis and mental illness. I think there's always, like, the body has symptoms, and the symptoms mean something of a underlying condition. I also believe that the mind gives off symptoms, but these are symbols of an underlying condition, underlying meanings, and underlying network of what exists within the mind, which is beyond the actual outcome of maybe a delusion or seeing something that's not there. But many of these things, definitely in my experience and what I've spoke to others, so many of threads of what people go through in psychosis, and massive parts of it, can actually be a psychic, connecting to the psychic waves of what's going on in the world and in the universe. I had a friend who believed he was communicating with the Orion star belt. And to most people that sounds like madness, but when you look into channeled information, and many people who have never been diagnosed as mentally ill, who write books and all sorts of things, are active in the society, in the community, they believe they communicate with beings from Jupiter and other beings from other star systems. In fact, I read a lot of books on the Palladian channeled information, and and many things like this. So yeah, basically I wanted to do this video to talk more about specific examples of psychic phenomenon connected to psychosis. Yeah, so well, a major one for a lot of people who undergo psychosis is obviously believing they can hear the thoughts of other people in their head. And I mean, obviously it's tricky, because when you're going through it, it wouldn't be good for me to say to someone, oh, that's real. Everything you're hearing in your head is real, because I don't think it is all real. But there is more to it than what people believe. There is more to it when patients take on board, and psychiatrists just ignore it. I mean, it's hard to quantify. It's hard to qualify, these thoughts going through your head and picking up on other things, because there's no real science of today hasn't met up with that kind of plane of the subtle energies, really. I think it's going to get there. But yeah, basically a major thing a lot of people go through is hearing the thoughts of other people in their head. Now, this is something that many psychics and mediums can pick up on easily, but it's in a controlled manner. They can control it, or they learn to control it, and it doesn't necessarily haunt them too much. Well, there's someone who's undergoing psychosis. The main issue, I suppose, is the fact that it's causing them great suffering, or they're deemed as a danger to themselves or others. So, but yeah, really, what I went through in my experiences, is I can't disbelieve it now, and I couldn't anyway. But I was connecting to the kind of inner voice in other people's heads and things, and the collective psychic noise in the streets and what's going underlying in people. It's like when I was walking through the street, I could just connect to all this, all these inner feelings that people who I just looked at, I could almost like connect to all their pain and all their suffering just in an instant. And I was walking in the streets in London one time when I had a massive panic attack, worst panic attack in my life. And I was hearing all this psychic noise coming from everyone, coming from what I believe was inside their heads, underlying their consciousness, underlying their conscious self. And I think that's one example. I mean, I have spoken to other people who haven't been diagnosed with a mental illness, and many people do say they believe that schizophrenics and bipolars and people suffering from psychosis are tapping into something very real. It's just obviously becoming distorted in some ways, as well. Let me think of some more examples. I mean, obviously I've found out a lot about this because I've undergone it myself. I've watched programs on it, read books, spoke to masses of people about psychosis and things. Me and my friends, we've got kind of community of us in my area, and we all sort of support each other and things, and we talk massively. One of the biggest subjects quite often is about our experiences under psychosis and things, and so I do believe I'm very qualified to talk about this. Because I've undergone it myself as well. So yeah, so there's so many things. I mean, I remember that singer Terence Trent D'Arby. He did a brilliant album, did loads of good songs, and they went missing for ages. I watched a documentary on him a couple of years ago, and he had a psychotic breakdown, and he believed in this interview that he communicated with angels and demons in his psychosis, mainly angels, he was saying. When I had my psychosis, I believed, in fact, I experienced, I think is a more correct term, I experienced communicating with various deities, various gods and goddesses. I had demons in my head, spirits attaching themselves to me, souls coming into my body. Do you know what I mean? In modern sort of psychiatry, modern psychology, modern science, mainstream science, doesn't account for these experiences. And it's just seen as a chemical, it's just a chemical reaction in your brain gone wrong. Do you know what I mean? And it's certainly not. I mean, it's a scary thing when I was going through it, because I knew it was real, and I knew no one could believe me, really. No one I was in contact with anyway. And I knew I had entities around me and things. And that's what many people go through with in psychosis. They know there's an entity around them, a dark cloud, a demon, a dark force, an evil spirit trying to mess up their head, attacking them, psychically attacking. This is something that goes on every day for people with, ongoing mental illnesses. There's so much there. I could go on for hours to talk about the various symptoms, expressions of of psychosis and psychic phenomena that people have gone through. But I suppose I just want to go on through the kind of main points with you to really discuss my views on it and my experiences with other people. So I'm not sure how long this has been recording for, because my webcam software won't tell me, but I'll go on for a few minutes anyway, a few more minutes, and see how long that is. So yeah, so basically the kind of the phenomenon of communicating with non-physical entities is a very common thread in psychosis. I definitely experienced a lot of that, and many other people have as well. And really, I really want to do a massive research, a book, and a documentary on people's experiences of psychosis, however amateur it may be. But I'd really like to document the kind of mysticism, madness, and truth in psychosis in different ways, and understand it differently. I mean, that's a long-term project, but what else is there? I mean, people believing they possess magical powers. That's a very common thread in psychosis, and particularly, well, schizophrenia in my experience, but also people with bipolar and things. Well, actually, yeah, many people with bipolar have also said, but this belief that you possess some form of magical power. And to me, that is seen as under modern psychiatry as an illusion of grandeur, that you have these superpowers, you know what I mean? And in OCD, there's threads of that as well, of people believing that they choose certain things or think certain things, that that certain outcomes will happen because of their choices. But really, my understanding of energy and frequency, which is a common understanding in kind of spirituality and things, is that a thought is an energy, a belief is an energy, and that actually has a physical substance to it, but we're unable to measure it at the moment with only minorly measure it with our scientific equipment of today. But that is an energy, and if that belief is strong, that is an energy. Do you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, obviously, I believe I was supposed to be the next Messiah, and I'd let down the spirits of the divines by getting ill, and I couldn't fulfill my purpose of being a Messiah, so I was punished for it. I mean, obviously, that is an illusion of grandeur on many levels, but and many other people, it's called the Messiah complex. Many other people with psychosis have that thing, that are meant to be the next Jesus or the next Messiah or the next. I'm just doing a video. Or the next Messiah and things. So I'm just doing a video, babe.
Oh, you're doing a video.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that is a common thing, and obviously that is an illusion of grandeur on many levels. But maybe there is something really in it, that people are able to tap into a spiritual energy, which they do have influence over certain things. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, I suppose I'm getting on kind of like weird grounds there, but I mean, maybe there is something in that everyone has, that they can harness or more in tune with on the psychic level while they're drawing psychosis. So yeah, that's all I want to say basically for now. I'll do another video on it, and I'll go into that more often, more on the next video, because I don't think I've described that very well there, that end point. Alright, thank you, thanks.